Like so much of the good loving that happens in our home, this story starts in the kitchen with a fun love note I created for my kids and put on the refrigerator. It was a period of intense transition. I divorced, we moved across town, my kids were 5, 7, and 9, and they changed schools, and ends often did not meet. In that process, friendships shifted, we needed different aftercare and new sports teams. In fact, I think the only thing that stayed the same is my work based at San Francisco General Hospital in a program supporting the care of HIV-positive pregnant women across the US. While I felt that everything would eventually be okay and I was on a path walking towards the light, I also felt overwhelmed and very tenuously connected to a thin layer of sanity. I began writing a love note and leaving a tiny metal trinket for each of my kids whenever I traveled, a token of my love to hold onto in their pocket or put under their pillow, a reminder of what cannot be seen but can only be felt. One day they said to me, "Sometimes we need a piece of you even when you are here." And thus this iconic love note was born, a take it when you need it, self-serve love note system, I love you on the top, and I love you too on each of the pull tabs. For days after that first flyer was created, it stayed on the refrigerator untouched. And then one morning, I walked into the kitchen, and it was as if I was seeing the flyer for the first time, and it was for me instead of from me. The I love you, the voice of my grandmother from years before. Savoring the memory of her love, I pulled the first I love you too tab and dropped it into my purse before the whirlwind of a typical weekday began. Throughout the day, each time I grabbed into my purse, I refound love. And that love transformed into many memories, reminders, and even hope. I felt the power of this get love, give love exchange as I went from being the one who gave the love to the one who received it. Nothing had changed in this day but my own perspective and this small scrap of paper with 4 words. Like renegades, my kids and I began hanging signs up about town and then sneaking away. It was terribly fun. We felt like rebels in that we had our own secret club. Then one day, alone on a road trip in a sleepy beach town, I hung a flyer on a community bulletin board. As I returned to my car, I glanced up and I saw an I love you too tab was gone. Now, I had never seen an I love you too tab go missing outside my own kitchen, and so in that moment, my heart stopped, or maybe it exploded, or maybe my heart started singing. I don't really know how to explain exactly how I felt because I'd never felt that way before. You know when you're somewhere new, but you feel as if you've arrived home. I looked up and down the 1 block of Main Street to see who had pulled the tab, but there was no one in sight. It had never really occurred to me how other people might perceive the sign, just that it had been fun for me to hang up. But in that moment, anonymously connecting with a stranger felt magical. Upon seeing this flyer, a friend suggested you should start a website. And so 3 years ago, on a November night, shortly before Thanksgiving, I jumped in. I printed 1,000 I Love You Too flyers and clicked publish on a website where I posted the flyer and invited anyone, anywhere to join me in printing it, hanging it, and sharing their love note story. Now this get love, give love concept and the website both exhilarated and terrified me. What if I ran out of ideas? What if I'm not enough? What if no one gets this? But most of all, who am I to promise that love would deliver? Though I had many fears, possibility also beckoned with this fantasy about what it would be like to change the world 1 love note at a time. I grew up the oldest of 14 kids, 8 of whom are adopted. I learned to say yes to life from my loving parents. Surveying what exists around me and figuring out how to make the most of it is second nature. So as I assessed what I had to change the world 1 love note at a time, in addition to this flyer, I found small windows of time, the 15 minutes between getting groceries and picking the kids up from soccer, or the time after the kids went to bed at night. I also found scraps of wood, markers, and paint. And I began painting love notes and hanging them on the fence outside of our home or on chain link fences wherever we went and posting the locations to the blog. It's always thrilling when someone shares their Get Love, Give Love story. The first guest post to the blog read, "At 3:41 p.m., I bumped into an I love you tacked to the telephone pole 2 blocks from my home. I was still angry, even after I'd walked all the way back from the beach. And I was reminded why I stay, and that it will be love that has me extend an olive branch to my husband even when I don't want to." Another guest, upon finding an I love you too tab in their pocket, wrote in, "I am going to Los Angeles, and I'm taking my long-lasting love for you." One weekend, I painted so many signs that it filled the back of the car. And the next morning, as the sun rose over the city, I drove and found myself in an industrial part of town, under freeway overpasses. There are lots of chain link fences in these neighborhoods, the perfect backdrop to this renegade street art style I've adopted. I began hanging my signs near tent encampments. Sometimes I felt at ease thinking, every home needs art. But sometimes I felt self-conscious thinking, you do not belong here, and why do you keep doing this? A few days later, this story posted to the blog. 3.5 years ago, we lost our 23-year-old son in a freak accident at the overpass of 15th and San Bruno. We went to the city for the first time since the accident to see the scene, to see if we could make sense of what happened. There were no answers, but there were 2 signs. Thank you to whomever posted them in such a sad and lonely place. There truly was no one like James. I had painted those signs with my youngest son, and I can't imagine what it would be like to lose a child. I invited my son to the computer so he could see the signs and read their story, and with tears streaming down our face, we held each other tight. While I still did not have the words to explain exactly why I do this, I knew I had to keep going. Later that year, as I continued to post flyers and hang signs, and strangers continued to share their Get Love, Give Love stories, there seemed to be a several-month period where the news was filled with school shootings and violent bullying, tragic endings, and untimely loss. During that same period, my phone rang on a Friday evening. As soon as I heard my sister's strained voice, I knew something was terribly wrong. Somehow, between the time the words left her mouth and reached my ears, I managed to lean against the door jamb, so I was still standing when it hit. My 36-year-old brother was dead by suicide. Dealing with this shame-filled and paralyzing grief, I tried to make sense of my family's loss within this greater context of communities grieving and healing. I noticed that in obituaries and at funerals and newspaper accounts, there were beautiful, often poetic things said about the dead, and I wondered if those same things had been said when both parties were alive. I wanted my brother back, if only for one day, so that he could hear all the wonderful things that were being said about him. This great loss made me wonder, what can I do, and how is it that we can do better? One thing I had already learned on this journey is that a broken heart has much more surface area, both to radiate and to receive love. I created love note templates, invitations to write, and began hosting pop-up live love note writing experiences, public happenings, where we write notes to give away or to create a public display of affection. I've written notes at schools and hospitals, street fairs and art galleries, and gala events. On the blacktop at my kids' K-8 Edison Charter Academy, the mamas, the papas, the teachers, the students all participated. It was complete joy. In Miss Arroyo's class, At Malcolm X Elementary in Berkeley, the students have integrated love note writing into one of the ways they communicate in the classroom. And Miss Moore's class at Doyle Elementary in San Diego tried a love note writing experiment to see what would happen when they gave love notes away. Their report, smiles all day. Love notes work magic. As part of the Dia de los Muertos celebration in San Francisco's Garfield Park, I was commissioned to make a public altar of love notes, where I invited people to write a note to themselves, to someone living, or to someone who had gone to the other side. In one night, hundreds of notes were written, and thousands of people visited the altar. It was a powerful experience of silently communicating, we are with you, and you are not alone. A stranger walks up to me in my neighborhood and asks, are you the love artist? As I nod, she explains, some people might find this odd, but I think that you will understand. I tithe, meaning I give money to where I'm spiritually fed, and that sign, you are enough, it means so much to me. As she hands me an envelope from the bank, she says, please don't say no. The practice is for me to give to you. As she walks away, I open the envelope, and inside are 3 $1 bills and 3 $100 bills. 3, the number for love, for perfection, for the Trinity. It's a mitzvah, my friends say. The mitzvah for me is being deeply seen by this woman, being witnessed. To date, I have hung over 2,000 I Love You Too flyers, painted hundreds of wood love notes, and held space in communities while thousands of love notes have been written. Hundreds of friends and strangers have shared their Get Love, Give Love stories, illuminating the power of sharing love notes. Parents surprised by a love note from a child, random acts of kindness, taking chances. Kiwanis Park, Provo, Utah. This is where my brother-in-law asked my sister to marry him, and she said yes. There's a young girl who walks by this sign each day and clears the snow off the top with her hands. Manuel Antonio, Costa Rica. London, England. Steiermark, Austria. Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. Tidal Basin, Washington, D.C. Brooklyn, New York. Seattle, Washington. Arlington Street Church, Boston, Massachusetts. Glen Park, San Francisco. Houston, Texas. Gaithersburg, Maryland. Fishtown, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Tartu, Estonia. Hello, lover, arrives the message on my phone. It's the nickname an artist friend has given me. The more she calls me this, the more I believe her. I wake up each morning and go to sleep each night loving you. You are what you do. I am the love note writer, the love artist, a lover, because a lover is someone who loves. Rumi wrote, lovers find secret places inside this violent world where they make transactions with beauty. That secret place is where I meet you. I know there is important work to be done in this world. We need to stock our food banks and teach everyone to read. There are vaccines to be developed. I want to map the end of HIV transmission. And I know this, love is louder. What is your sacred service? What would love have you do? Love actually is the answer to all these seemingly impossible tasks we face. Sometimes it takes a little love to pull on our marching boots one more time. Of course it's love when we say from the bottom of our heart, I am very sorry. With love can come the acceptance we are seeking for ourselves or others, the kind of love that fills up so much space that there's no more room for hate. A little love can inspire us to do more, to try again, to believe that change is possible, or to remember why, in fact, we do this work at all. You know, I have thought about you for weeks, and I wondered what it would be like to love you like this up here and you're down there. And I knew in the end that actually I would want to write you a love note. So I wrote to each one of you, and I've tucked it under the front of your chair. It's my love for you. I'm taking a chance, inviting you to jump in and join me on this Get Love, Give Love adventure, changing the world one love note at a time.